For those of you who don't know, I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm host of the Young Turks. God bless. All right, there you go. We do a bit of an online show. We do a TV show. And what makes us a little bit different than everybody else is that we're not part of the establishment media. In fact, I'm going to talk to you a decent amount about the establishment media today, actually, because I think it's a huge part of the Bradley Mannings story. First of all, I want to tell you guys, everybody that came out to support Bradley Manning, that you are not alone. You know, if you watch the mainstream press and the establishment media, you might think that you are alone, because all you ever see is hate towards Manning. All you ever see is hate towards Assange. Why? Honestly, because they're embarrassed. Stone cold embarrassed. When's the last time they did journalism? When's the last time CNN broke a story?
30 years ago.
When's the last time they told us that we killed 15,000 more civilians in Iraq with the war that we started? They didn't, did they? And Bradley Manning, if it is true that he's the one who did the leaks, then God bless his heart, because he's the one that told us we killed 15,000 more civilians through our ridiculous war in Iraq. Did the media tell us it was a bad idea to do that war? All I remember is if you were Phil Donahue or you were Ashley Banfield or you were anybody else who opposed the war, you were fired from that establishment media, because the establishment media wanted to go to war. Now, look, who owns NBC? At the time, GE, huge defense contractor. Who used to own CBS? Westinghouse, a huge defense contractor. Do you think that this might be a little relevant in their calculations? Of course it is. Now, why do you think the defense contractors bought the media? If I was a defense contractor, that's the first thing I'd buy. Because if I want a gravy train where I get trillions of dollars fed to me through the politicians that I have bought, what would I do first? I'd go make sure there was no opposition. How do you do that? You buy the media. And the media tells everybody, bow your heads. These are our beloved generals and our beloved military, and they never do anything wrong. So when we find out that, oops, that war we started in Iraq killed 15,000 more people than we realized. When we realize, hey, we kill first responders. When we shoot innocent people, and as we saw in the collateral murder video with that Apache helicopter, and there are civilians there, and there are reporters there, and then people come to rescue them to make sure they don't die. Now, if you were a journalist, if you were a real reporter, wouldn't you think, my God, look at what we have uncovered here. Look at what our government is doing wrong. What happened instead? God damn Assange for embarrassing us by showing us things that we didn't want to show the American people. We don't want to show them that sometimes our military kills people wrongly. Now, that military is supposed to represent all of us, because we're the citizens of this democracy. And we're supposed to decide where that military goes. And we're supposed to decide how we use the greatest military this mankind has ever seen. It is gigantic, it is so powerful, it is so strong. We should be a little careful in how we use it. But if you ever show that in the media, they hate you with a vengeance. So Julian Assange is a bad guy, he's a criminal, he's a wanted man. How dare he show what the government is doing? Well, you losers, you incompetents. That was supposed to be your job, but you didn't do your job. So when somebody does it, oh my God, we all have to turn our hate against Assange. And then Bradley Manning, how dare he be a whistleblower? Don't you know that as part of the media, our job is to suck up to the government? That's what they think their job is. Now, why do I call them the establishment media? Because they are part of the establishment. I want you to think for a second, how did they get their jobs? They got their jobs by playing ball. If you didn't play ball, you got removed. You know, you're Phil Donahue, you got the #1 show on MSNBC, but apparently you didn't wave the flag enough as we were going to a senseless war that was going to hurt our country, not help our country. You are removed. Ashley Banfield gave a great speech in Kansas before the war about all the things that the media wasn't covering, and the fact that Saddam Hussein was not connected to 9/11. Now, the grotesque failure of the media was that as we went to that war, 69% of Americans thought Saddam Hussein was personally responsible for 9/11. If I thought Saddam Hussein was personally responsible for 9/11, I'd want to go get him myself. But he wasn't. It was a lie. So what did Ashley Banfield get for telling the truth before the war? She wasn't even fired. That would have been gentler. What they did was, and that was their star, if you remember. She was a rising star in cable news, and she was on MSNBC. She had a show. They say, you're off the air. You don't have the show anymore. Okay, can I do some reporting? Can I do on-air correspondence? No, you can't do that. Not only that, we're moving your office. You might not know this story. You know where they moved her office to? Literally a closet. She said, all right, well then let me out of my contract. Let me go work for someone else. No, we are going to keep you off the air. For as long as you have a contract with us, you cannot go tell the truth to anyone else. We're not going to let you on the air. They literally stuck her in a closet. Now, I only use her as an example. Why? If you tell the truth, you wind up in a closet. If you suck up to the government and you suck up to the military, by the way, where do the generals and the colonels go when they retire? Where do they go? No, they go immediately to work at the military-industrial complex. Now, if you say that on TV, they say, how dare you? How dare you? That is our beloved generals. You're supposed to bow down to them. You're supposed to kiss their feet. Look, some generals are incredibly brave. I've talked to a lot of generals on my show, and a lot of them fought through the some wars that were necessary, unfortunately some that were unnecessary. But that doesn't mean you don't question any of them. If they go work for defense contractors and then they come back on television, they don't tell you that, and they tell you, as General McCaffrey has done, God bless the Abrams tank, as his company is selling the Abrams tank and saying, oh, what a great war Iraq is, and it's because of the Abrams tank that we are so successful. Those are the guys who get promoted. The guys who say, General McCaffrey, way to go! Let's start another war in Iran this time. And if you out those guys, you wind up in a closet, or worse yet, you wind up like Bradley Manning. Now, Bradley Manning has been in jail for 2 years now, over 2 years. Over 9 months of that was in isolation, was in forced nudity, sleep deprivation. This is what the CIA calls non-touch torture. So we are going to torture you without leaving any marks. Now, not any physical marks, it might leave mental marks. But if you say, hey, you know what, I'm for that guy, I'm for the whistleblower that not only tried to figure out, my God, what's our government doing wrong? What's our military doing wrong? Something that, again, should be celebrated by the press. If you say you're with that guy, you're one of the bad guys. You don't belong. You're not part of the establishment. And if you're not part of the establishment, you're not going to get paid. You're not going to get the primetime shows. Now, why do you think the establishment is against all these things? Because they got there by being against these things. They got there by being part of the government complex, by being part of the military complex. They got there by not asking questions. So when I say to you, hey, you're not alone, I'm telling you that there are millions of people across this country and across the world who think the same thing you guys do. Hey, wait a minute, why the hell's Bradley Manning in jail? But they sit in at their homes and they say, well, I don't see it on CBS, I don't see it on ABC, I don't see it on NBC, I don't see it on CNN, I must be alone. But you are not alone. There's a lot of us who think, hey, you know what? Maybe that guy who did that whistleblowing, and by the way, was part of the reason, forget America, look at the world, was part of the reason that they had the Arab Spring. I mean, my God, can you think of a more important American than the guy who helped Tunisia and Egypt start a revolution? That's the guy who should be celebrated. Now, the only question I had left in my mind, and I was struggling with this, and I have been for a long time, I don't know why, maybe it's because I've worked in the mainstream media, and I've been influenced because that's my circle, and that's my fault, right? I know that Bradley Manning shouldn't be in jail anymore. Now, you can make an argument, hey, if he released, some evidence, is he a whistleblower, or did he do an illegal action for which he should go and serve some period of time, right? But I know he shouldn't have been tortured for 9 months. I know that 2 years is more than long enough. I know that he released incredibly important information for our democracy so that we can find out and make the right decisions and not the wrong decisions. Do you know any journalist who has helped you to make decisions better than Bradley Manning has? Who has let you know what our military is up to, what our government is up to? So the only question that I had left was, should I come out here and call him an American hero? And now, if you do that, and let me tell you the consequences, you get shunned. You get the proverbial closet. You know, oh, you know what? Look at this radical. Look at this fringe guy. Look at this liberal. Look at this Occupy guy. Look at this guy who says, oh my God, Bradley Manning, who broke the law, is an American hero. But you know who else, quote unquote, broke the law? Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, Daniel Ellsberg, okay? All of our greatest heroes. You know who else broke the law of the time? Jesus Christ, okay? Who threw out the money changers? Who came and said these religious authorities are wrong? Who came to the establishment and said, I'm going to challenge you? And they hated him for it. In fact, they killed him for it. Okay? Now, if you believe that, and you look back at that, and you think, who are our heroes? Let me give you some more heroes that broke the law of the time. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, all of them, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, all criminals by the law of their time. Because at the time, the great royalty of England had decided that we were a colony and that you should bow your head. And Jefferson and Washington said, we're not going to bow our head. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab a musket and go to war. Now, those were radicals. Those were American heroes. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So, as I thought about it more and more, I thought, God, you know, I can't believe I struggled with it this long. It's the easiest question in the world. Of course Bradley Manning is an American hero. I hope he released the documents. They haven't proved it yet. In fact, they tortured him before they even charged him. I thought we were a country of laws. Their word that Bradley Manning broke the law? How about when you broke the law and tortured him without even charging him? I thought that we were American citizens. Can they do that to you? Can they do it to me? If they do it to Bradley Manning?
Sure will.
If you're a United States citizen, they don't have to prove anything. They can come in here and take any one of us and forced nudity, sleep deprivation, non-touch torture for 9 months, then maybe they charge you, maybe they don't. And how many lies have we seen? Jose Padilla was supposed to be a dirty bomber. Cheney said, don't worry, I got secret information. He's a dirty, dirty bomber, right? He's gonna blow up buildings in Chicago. And then when they had to bring him to court, what happened? Turns out they were full of shit. He wasn't a dirty bomber. He wasn't gonna blow up buildings in Chicago. They had zero evidence. I got news for you, because apparently the establishment media isn't gonna tell you. Your government is lying to you. They're lying to you. But the thing is, you tell people in the middle of the country, they say, no, how dare you? How dare you? That's our beloved government. We're supposed to bow down. No, we're not. We're Americans. And if you're an American, you don't bow down. You challenge your government. Who challenged their government most? Now, who challenged the government? Bradley Manning. He said, I've got this information that people gotta know. Do you know what they're doing in Tunisia? Do you know what they're doing in Egypt? Do you know what we did in Iraq? You know, at a bare minimum, the most conservative number there is that because of that war, 120,000 civilians died. Civilians in Iraq, let alone thousands of our own kids, let alone the 30,000 and more that came home with missing limbs. And I'm not even talking about the brain injuries. We did that war, and Bradley Manning showed us what a terrible idea that war was and the consequences of it. Well, if that's not an American hero, I don't know what is. And so, is it time to free Bradley Manning?
Yeah.
My answer to that is hell yes.
Hell yeah.
And if you see someone in the media talking against Bradley Manning. Oh, how dare he break the law, etc. You think of Martin Luther King. You think of Thomas Jefferson. You think about all of our heroes who did the right thing no matter what the establishment of that time said was the law. And now that is exactly what a hero is. A guy who's willing to suffer the consequences, and he has. A guy who's willing to be tortured. A guy who's willing to be kept in prison. A guy who's now being charged with aiding the enemy. That kind of personal sacrifice, that's what a hero is. It's easy to sit, and honestly, as I have in the big studios, and pontificate and tell people, hey, the government is right, the military is right, anybody who challenges the government is wrong, whether it's the Tea Party, whether it's the Occupy movement, whether it's Bradley Manning, whether it's Julian Assange. That's really easy to do, and they think they're heroes. They're not heroes. The true heroes are the ones our government imprisons for telling the truth. So, I'm here to tell you, you are not alone. There are those of us out here who think that Bradley Manning is the good guy, not the bad guy. There's those of us out here who think when the history books are written, they're going to say who made the most impact, whether it was the Arab Spring or whether it was telling the American people what their military is up to, what their government is up to. And at the top of that list is going to be Bradley Manning. So, and it ain't going to be the media stars. You think the history books are going to look back and go, oh, what a hero Wolf Blitzer was. I mean, who's going to look back and say, thank God Wolf Blitzer fed us that propaganda night in and night out. Thank God Wolf Blitzer decided, hey, you know what? The government is always right. And CNN, with their bold action, they decide, oh, we're going to get rid of John King and we're replacing with another hour of Wolf Blitzer. Okay, because you were losing all of that audience. Why? Because you didn't do enough propaganda? Yeah, they're trying to figure out why they're at 20-year record lows for CNN. I got news for you. They're at a record low because we are not alone. When we see everybody looking at that goes, I don't believe them anymore. I don't believe them. I don't believe the government is doing the right thing. I don't believe the military is doing the right thing. And these guys who keep telling me like robots that they are, they're lying to me. I'm going to stop watching them. So by all means, let's all participate in every way that we can. Whether it's turning off the guys who are lying to you, whether it's fighting for Bradley Manning, whether it's being part of this movement or any other movement, right-wing, libertarian, left-wing, I don't care. Just challenge the establishment, challenge your government. That's what the press is supposed to do. That's what good, caring, honest, patriotic citizens are supposed to do. And by all means, support Bradley Manning because it's high time that we free Bradley Manning. Yeah. Thank you. They didn't, did they? And Bradley Manning, if it is true that he's the one who did the leaks, then God bless his heart, because he's the one that told us we killed 15,000 more civilians through our ridiculous war in Iraq. Did the media tell us it was a bad idea to do that war? All I remember is if you were Phil Donahue or you were Ashley Banfield or you were anybody else who opposed the war. For those of you who don't know, I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm host of the Young Turks. God bless. All right, there you go. We do a bit of an online show. We do a TV show. And what makes us a little bit different than everybody else is that we're not part of the establishment media. In fact, I'm going to talk to you a decent amount about the establishment media today, actually, because I think it's a huge part of the Bradley Manning story. First of all, I want to tell you guys, everybody that came out to support Bradley Manning, that you are not alone. You know, if you watch the mainstream press and the establishment media, you might think that you are alone because all you ever see is hate towards Manning. All you ever see is, or you were fired from that establishment media because the establishment media wanted to go to war. Now, look, who owns NBC? At the time, GE, huge defense contractor. Who used to own CBS? Westinghouse, a huge defense contractor. Do you think that this might be a little relevant in their calculations? Of course it is. Now, why do you think the defense contractors bought the media? If I was a hate towards Assange, why? Honestly, because they're embarrassed. Stone cold embarrassed. When's the last time they did journalism? When's the last time CNN broke a story?
30 years ago.
When's the last time they told us that we killed 15,000 more civilians in Iraq with the war that we started